Hello. How's everybody doing? Hope I'm coming in. Looks like it is. Do I sound alright? Trying not to pop everyone out tonight. Last week it was a little gravelly. Hopefully my mic's working with me. T-Formers 2002, how are you? El Kevo, Bigum, Timu, Titus, Princeton Phalanx 59, how are you guys? Billy B, welcome back. Good to see everybody. Blunghole, nice. Hey David, what's up? What is up? Since, yeah, alright. Looks like everything's going well. I don't think I have too much new in the shelving this week, although I did find one more of these, so we're going to open this tonight. Last time we got Super Optimus, and we'll see who we get tonight. But we'll do that in a little bit. You have found yourself on Friday night at the Toy Armada. I am Aaron Archer, longtime toy designer, creative person, storyteller, freelance artist, and whatnot. I worked at Kenner Hasbro for nearly 20 years, mostly on Transformers, Batman, G.I. Joe, and other things. And Friday night, we like to talk about toys, and I like to answer questions about the toy industry or why things might have happened or my opinion on things happening. We just kind of freewheel it. So, how's everybody doing? Justin, how are you, man? Yeah, everybody's doing so far so good, man. Hotshot fan, kicking it in from vacation. Good luck with that. My family and I are taking a little trip tomorrow, and I don't know if I'll be able to listen to the Slag podcast, but so if I don't see you there, that's why. No problem. I'm here to talk, share the information I have, have some fun. If you're so inclined, I'm a freelance artist. Super chat your question if you want to talk about something particular. That'll rise to the top. But other than that, I'm going to talk a little bit about Primus and Unicron. Which is what I thought. We talked last week about the 13 a little bit. And those, apparently those products being part of the lineup. And we kind of covered a little bit of the art behind them and the what for. I don't have art on Unicron or Primus per se. But I wanted to go back in time a couple weeks ago, if we could, for those of us who we were jawing a couple weeks ago about whether or not the HasLab guy would be Primus before it was revealed to be Omega Prime. So is anyone here extremely disappointed that it wasn't Primus? I'm just curious. That one's still rattling around in my brain. And then they did the 13, which means Primus is the only missing element, so to speak. I wonder if Vector Prime coming in the coming year will be the herald to these 13 things happening. The thing about when we did Unicron for Armada, it was like we needed a big bad guy at the end, and it was awesome that he had those rings in his design from the 86 film that we could kind of start playing with and create a mechanism to hold all those mini-cons, and it all made sense, right? The big bad guy holds all those mini-cons. And that was really cool. And then by the time we did Cybertron, we did the whole Omega Lock thing, and it became a big robot. We put some little planet details about some of the elements of the storytelling. But it was really just a big robot with some projectile play. And I don't know. See, so what I wanted to get to today is Primus is a bit weird because it's essentially, in the big myth, it is the creation god, so to speak, or mechanism by which then the 13 are created. And then with them being created, they execute kind of that mechanical data and information through life forms going down the lines, and you get beasts and minicons and all the different things. But I haven't really felt comfortable with Primus ever. I was surprised we even did it on Cybertron, but it was such a stark selling point to have another planet and kind of revisit an anniversary, as we used to say, that opportunity. So if Unicron did it really well, we could count on Cybertron perhaps doing a similar amount of business or whatnot. So to me, Primus is tricky because it's a big robot, huge. It's got to be big. It's kind of the god character for Transformers, which is always a bit weird because are you hanging out talking to that entity? I saw in the upfront that someone asked, maybe is it a celestial? Given its origins in the Marvel universe somehow. That's an interesting take. I'm not going to promote that one in fear of God knows what kind of trademark and whatnot, but it's an interesting concept. I'm looking in here, seeing if you guys. Seems like everybody was disappointed somewhat. I always agree that with David there, some of us will never have enough room for that stuff. I do not. If I would have bought that, it would still be in the box somewhere with too many things sitting on it because the box is big enough to sit stuff on. But I digress. That isn't the core question or what I'm talking about tonight. Yeah, I mean, Primus is still an option, and it could be the big thing at the back end, or they're like I think with Omega Prime, they're playing it very down the line, safe. It's an Optimus, it's a combiner, it's an era that isn't celebrated enough, and it's an opportunity to celebrate it. So can't really go wrong. We'll see if something like Primus can pop back up. Did the discussions about the 13 Prime start taking place before, during, or after you were bringing Unicron into Armada? Oh, way after. Way after. We weren't trying to codify this stuff until, into 07, I guess, 06. So that was way after. And again, a means to an end as we kept getting more and more interesting partnerships and opportunities to tell deeper stories because people were more and more into wanting to know in more depth about the Transformers. Those opportunities kept coming up, so it was worth exploring things like the 13 and stuff, again, because they weren't intended to be toys. Here's the thing about, I don't know if I don't know how to describe it. There's a lot of people that really love Transformers, but one of the most frustrating things is the continuity of story or overlapping of story or similar but different. You know, it's like you're looking through the prism of multiverse all the time with the Transformer brand. It's because it's not a full story with a beginning, middle, and end. It's more in line with, I don't know, a soap opera with a really drastic designer change every few years. And I don't mean that in the sense of a toy designer. I mean like the look. And it makes it very difficult to plot a path too far in the future, because you can only go so far in smaller chunks as these plans play themselves out. So things like the 13 wouldn't have gotten figured out unless there was a opportunity that they needed to be figured out. Otherwise, that was you can't waste your effort on that. So, good question. Hotshot fan regarding Primus interpretations between Armada. Wow. That's a deeper question than I probably can answer. Hotshot fan. Hey, Big Dog Toys, how are you? Work can wait. Yeah, don't say the D word too many times, El Kevo. Joe, I don't recall anywhere near numbers like that. I really wasn't privy to most of that stuff. I mean, it was on paperwork that I had probably at different points, but you know, Hasbro really didn't talk numbers openly, all that kind of stuff. So, and things got bought in different chunks by different retail buyers that the number would drastically change. So it was just something I didn't pay too much attention to. I was paying attention to overall success and impression of the brand that was going, and if we were getting asked to do more, you know, that things were doing well if they were asking you to do more. Simon had created the concept of the 13 in fiction, yeah, but they were not defined, or there were a lot of open slots, let's say, to figure it out. So that became a problem. Oh, the 13, the 13, the 13. Well, there's this one, and this one. Okay, then what? You know, how do we, you know, we can't just leave those open. At least internally, we needed to understand what our characters represented at the time. You know, again, I have no affiliation with Hasbro at this point, so anytime I say we or me or that, you know, us, you know, that's from back in the day. So Simon definitely created the open playground for what I needed then to fill in a little bit for our internal lore development. Exactly. You know, if you don't have a plan internally to then pivot or have an opinion on, you don't know. You know, if you have an opportunity to tell a novel or play a video game or make a video game, you got to have meat to give them so they can create that. You can't just throw it over the wall, or at least we weren't doing that at the time. You know, and they continued to very good plan for years, especially in publishing, you know, with the partnerships. Creation myths for sentient robots is a hard sell for story. That's what I'm trying to say. You distilled it very well there, Titus Paul. You know, these are godlike things, so let's bring Unicron into this a little bit more. So you have the story we used to tell, and this is distilled from a lot of different inputs that I kind of interpolated, was that in their astro plane projections, these giant entities in space, one good, one bad, were battling it out forever in some sort of cosmic energy fight. The one of them decides to trap them both in a metal planet that was nearby, trapping their energies in this metal planet, that then over another set of millions of years, their energy fighting on this metal planet pulled those two metal planets apart. Now you have, maybe let's start considering it a good energy and a bad energy planet. And they are going to continue to fight, and they want to get back to their, let's call them, more humanoid, two-legged form. And they convert and transform that metal that they've been imbued with into their robot form, and thus becoming a transformer from metal planet to that. So that's how you get Primus and Unicron. That was the story we used to tell. And then Primus, still needing leverage to fight Unicron, because Unicron evil was always somehow able to persevere. He created the 13 out of his own energies, so he kind of went dormant to create unique energy beings to fight Unicron and send him away. And that's what the 13 were. And then from there, somehow that energy got populated throughout the population of what became Cybertron. And for a long time, people forgot that it was even let's call it a transforming planet. And that is basically the story we told. So it is kind of weird to tell, here's our great hero, Optimus Prime, who is a downstream character of this 13 character that is really a protector of the God character, and it just gets very convoluted and weird, and I don't want to say biblical, but it certainly gets mythical really quick, and that's stuff that makes toy VPs and salespeople kind of just like, what? Who's this? What's that? And it's better to focus on more of the mainstream characters, which, I think, if you look at the Marvel cinematic universe, when you start getting, and I said this about toys last week, when you start getting away from a certain core and then building it slowly, a wider core, you can't just go, second tier, third tier, come on in, fourth tier, come on in. These doors are easy to walk through. It's not that easy, and people continually make that issue. It's still an issue. So Unicron is really easy as far as the toy went. We made the one for Armada. No problem. It had a great feature. It was big. It was evil looking. It's a big orange dude with horns. You can't go wrong. We didn't get any crap for it being, demonic or anything. Primus was based off of the Don Figueroa design in this book, which is a great design. Oh man, I had it marked. Some of that came from these books too, as we were presenting this stuff, where we got that concept of the story. It was a mess trying to explain to people this lore at that time. Was a mess. There was no easy way to explain where the company was with one of its main assets. All right, let me get back to some of this stuff. Yeah, metal space gods for sure. Hi, Aaron. Did you ever push to get giant Shogun Warrior style of Primus and Unicron Astro forms? No, I did not. That would have been funny. I showed a little bit last week. I used to have a series of drawings that kind of storyboarded this out really quick for new VPs that would come in or new partners that would come in, so they at least understood how we saw the progression of these characters, because we couldn't expect partners to, hey, read this Exodus novel or play this video game, or you have to explain your assets. So so there you go. It's still less complicated than the Fate franchise, and that franchise has plenty of plans. The Fate franchise? I don't know of that one. Oh, of... Alright. Yeah. Yeah, we could talk about some of that stuff. This is where the job got a little weird for me, because I'm not a writer and I wasn't an archivist, and I wasn't supposed to be. So things like the Allspark and the key to Vector Sigma, I kind of just left some of that alone. We started using the Allspark from Beast Wars as kind of their digital soul that might, energy can't be created or destroyed, so it would maybe live on and move on. And that became our prompt for the essence of these characters. They have a heart. They got a digital soul in there. And that's what separated them from something that was driven by a pilot or an alien or something. What happened in the films, as far as all that stuff went, was that they just kept needing a new MacGuffin. Chase the Matrix, chase the Allspark, check the this, the that, the that, the this. So it got very convoluted in the movies. I don't know if it makes sense exactly what any of those things were supposed to do. I don't know. Yeah, Lorenzo, one of the producers on the Transformer movies, he was running Warner Brothers when the Matrix movies came out, and that's one of his claim to fames. So he was really put off every time we used the Matrix. Just offhand, we'd just say, oh, and the Matrix, and he couldn't get it out of his head, and rightfully so. I mean, I'm not complaining. He had just made I'm sure a metric ton of money on the Matrix franchise. So, for us to just throw this term around was really weird for him. And he encouraged us often to just, avoid it, or he pushed it to the side for a bit. So it was less Michael Bay and more Lorenzo, from my experience. That could have been also, but that was my experience. No one in sales wants to cross streams with religion. Not in your robot toys. Not in your collectible robot toys. That is probably true. Yeah, the Primus design is great. Don did that one image, the thing that I both am amazed at and confused by with Don's art of that era is his ability to do the fisheye lens. So he's got a ability to kind of flex the image in a way that it's just really tough to do. That's a tough way to go, and he always does it. He's got this, and it's awesome. But that is tough to do. So we had to kind of reinterpret for that. That we had obviously the feature that we adjusted for with the Omega Lock, and then Eric went crazy with other aspects of it. So it's a combination. But we started with that image there, because this was where we started to get the concept that, well, if assets exist and there's a great drawing and Hasbro owns it, let's at least be like this. Okay, let's start here and then go from there. You do not have to keep recreating the wheel. Yeah, and then they put the Matrix in the next movie anyway. You're telling me. Boy, oh boy. Sorry, these things are flying by. Let me get my ground here. Yeah, I think Matt, I think you hit on something there. When I was doing it, it was based off of what Simon had set up, the 13, and that's very mythical, and there's myths with with that concept in a way. Now that they're making a bigger deal out of it, calling them the primes or the ancient primes or something is probably more accurate. The 13 isn't that ownable. It's not. It's kind of largely generic. And that could easily get confused with other concepts. I'll even go so far as like the 13th Warrior, and the 13th Floor, and things that'll pop up with that name. So calling them the primes is probably a better way to go about it. Yeah, Beast Wars Spark was a big one. Yeah, that Covenant of Primus book, it's not available really, is it? Digital PDF, that's interesting. Well, General Taquino, I'm glad I did. I can't recall what I probably said at that point, but yeah. Yeah, in my mind, the 13 primes are all Titan size, and Megatronus is probably the size of a normal Optimus. So take that one. There's a scale shift for everybody. Yeah, I consider them themselves to be epic gods. So for me, the influence was the Titans that were overthrown by Zeus and his crew. So I didn't want to do the overthrowing thing exactly, but there was a whole set of giant guys before these giant guys. So yeah, CD Freedom, you caught a good point there. See, so the Vector Sigma conversation always confused me, have to say. Yeah, I don't know where they got the core story for that. We weren't really pitching story too much. We were trying to just get them to somewhat represent the characters in a fashion that was consistent with something that we felt we understood. We did our best at that time, but where they got their story points, I don't really recall. I wasn't Hollywood level, sitting in the writer's room thing there at that level. Yeah, we use the term digital souls all the time. Hey, Wind Charger, how are you? What is the forge of Solus Prime? Like, that's confusing to me. Like a forge heats metal, and then you forge, but your hammer isn't a forge. Well, I think in our mindset, and this, I'm not a lore expert. I set some of the stuff in motion, but the stuff we used to talk about was that the hammer and the forge, as the pounding happens, it would create the weapons of magic, or power. Those early concepts of the armor or the sword or the matrix. The matrix is just part of the hilt on a sword. So what we think of this awesome epic element as far as Optimus Prime is really just a tiny jewel of a much bigger thing, which goes to like Lord of the Rings and Morgoth being a much bigger kind of villain, and his mace is what they use to pound the doors open with when in the final battle. So there was a guy at one point that was holding that flaming dog thing. That was a mace. People don't all know that, but unless you're good nerdy, so maybe everybody here does know that. But I like the idea of that scale shift. So, hey, Coltron, you're here too. Awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of Transformer MacGuffins with those words, sadly. Lorenzo has also drove down the franchise. Well, he's driven it up for his needs. I don't know. The thing I'll step back and say overall, it's not like people in Hollywood are worried about the long-term franchise benefit of the films. They're just trying to make a film. They're trying to hit while they hit. They make them for that purpose, and whatever cascades around or off that happens. So it's he does what he does for the films, and he's tied to them till the end of time. He brought them to market, so you can't hate on a guy that brought him to market. It's unfortunate. I don't know why we just can't reboot, and kind of start some of this over, but that's where I'll say he's being more firm. But I'm not gonna hate on Lorenzo. He's an old-timey Hollywood promoter. He says things to be shocking. He says things to be memorable. He'll say things to get a what was that? Kind of listen. Don't it's all part of the show. It's all part of the promotion of these films. So yeah, I don't know. Dendrolin, I don't disagree, but this is where I'll say I am not a writer. I am a story architect, franchise planner, and a creative person. So you start getting into noun and verb usages and things. You're not wrong, but we convey concepts too. So I'm sorry. Sorry we didn't more fully form that, I guess. Were there any plans to bring over the green Minicon colored Unicron repaint from Japan to the United States? Love the Minicon uniting together. No, that was I think that was some sort of lucky draw or event Unicron. So we did not have access to that one. Let's see. Covenant was available in Internet Archive. Whoa, everything just jumped on me. For some time, but got took down for copyright infringement. Oh, of course it did. So how big would my Cronus Primi be in your mind? I don't know. Do I know that term? Oh, my Cronus Prime be in your mind. The size of, like, Optimus. To me, that's what's funny about it. Because everything would have been more epic. Even the small guy would have still been bigger than what we think of as small. So, yeah. So it's that classic transition from old gods to new gods. Did you take any influence from Jack Kirby's Celestials, his space gods? I don't think so, other than the whole concept of astroplane projections, which was still in the old comics. So, you know, playing in that same space of epic energies, battling it out, and how that affects. And, you know, that's the same concept I talk about with Armada, with the early development image of a robot getting punched, and what the sweat coming off of him as if they were boxers was really just tiny robots. And that became a kind of a mini-con starting point. So presenting them in epic ways was a nice way to show what they could do. And that's what made Vector Prime so fun, because he was, in that case of that creating that character, he was super intricate, and you could really play that up. Yep, unique digital entities. Yep. So the idea too there was that then we use that concept. If one guy got really taken out, killed, his digital spark, you know, could find its way into another form, and that's how, you know, Demolisher and Cyclonus might have migrated. Why they changed names and all that, I don't know. But all right, a hammer and anvil equal a forge. All right, well, there we go. Was the universe subline under your direction? The first one, where it was the purple kind of Unicron with Tiger Hawk, and I think we did Depth Charge and Battle Unicorn and a few of those. Yeah, that was under my general influence. Yeah. Brian Parrish redid those redecos. He had come from Star Wars. That's why they all have a very earth tone realism feel, because that was the world he lived in. So that was what made that universe line a little popped differently at the time, which was kind of cool. Definitely realism before we had it, but on beasts and stuff. So the sad reality for all y'all would be that there's no delineation. All this stuff we just keep getting added to. So we'd maybe get one person like this Brian Parrish. Hey, can you do these deco sheets? You know, can you? You know, but he didn't sit in all the meetings. He had other stuff he did. But we would push and pull from different people we could get help from. But I would have probably given Brian, here's the molds we're using, here's the you know, the items we're redecoing. I don't think he probably had as much say in that. So was it difficult to balance dealing with the G1 cartoon elements that didn't mesh with the Primus stuff? Well, that's where I always say my job was not to hold anything back or worry about the past. It was very much, what are we doing this year, next year's fashion trends, what can we pull to make the most of? It really, it I purposely worked to not, kind of move the stick hard left and right, but it wasn't my job to keep G1 continuity going or even know G1 continuity. That would not have been a benefit necessarily at the time that I took over Transformers. It would have been the wrong focus probably, but so I didn't have to balance those kinds of things. What I had to do was make the most of anything that came before to maximize what we wanted to do next. So yeah, universe kind of was a weird multiverse, right? There was a whole battle going on. Does Lorenzo or Paramount own part of the concepts from the movie? I always wondered if that's why they didn't reboot. They definitely have stakes in it, but whether it gets rebooted or not, they still do. I mean, I think if you look at a Batman movie today, I still think you see Tim Burton's name on it somewhere. That's just how Hollywood is. Yeah, El Kevo, everything doesn't have to be connected to part of a series. I think we're at the point where we can have fun one-off of the movies. Yeah, I look, again, just because of my time with it, I look at what Batman has become. You can have kind of the residue of the Snyder universe out there. You can have the Robert Pattinson Batman. You could have these Joker character movies. There's a new Harley Quinn thing coming out with Lady Gaga. So we now live in a Elseworlds version of these franchise universes. So yeah, Transformers doesn't have to be in one big continuity. It never has been. Power Rangers, I feel, runs in the same issue. They kind of connect up. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I don't know. But as long as they're making cool stuff, let's just focus on that. That was always my attitude, and that's why I was willing to change things. The Hasbro Lab has now reached Tier 2. I will never financially recover from this. I hope that's not the case. If you can't afford it, don't buy it, man. You don't have to have it. Don't have to have it. Now, if you literally regret it forever and ever and ever, go ahead and buy it. It's been a minute. I will show everyone my biggest regret forever, ever, ever, ever. Was well, let's see here. This is the book. Okay. I saw this book in '82 because I'm a little older than some of you, and it had all this stuff. Where am I at? It had these extra vellum pages. I remember being in Walden Books and just geeking out about this book. This is a collector book. So, it's got these vellum pages to go over the art. With writing and stuff. Really just... Anyway, I saw this book in '82. Loved it. Did not get it. Dark Crystal is a bit of an odd duck. Let's be honest. These books back then, art books of movies, were not a thing. So that book haunted my mind decades until I saw it at Comic-Con in the late 90s. Okay, so it was 15 years plus that I coveted that book. So if you have to have Omega Prime, like I had to have that book, go ahead and buy it. But if you don't need that thing, and if it isn't for you, don't feel like you have to have it. You don't have to chase that dragon, man. Wait for the things that really appeal to you, because then they will always have a place in your heart, and they will always have a place in your collection versus something you have to lug around or you feel is a number value. You know, that's all. How did the concept for the Legion darts for Liege Maximo come about? I don't know much about that one enough to comment. Whoa, everything just skipped on me again. Sorry. I was diatribing a little bit. Who is your favorite Prime character? Are we talking Prime the cartoon or of the 13 Primes? Sweat as tiny robots. Yeah. I'll pull that up one of these days, Michael. I got a drawing that Ken Lashley did early days, helping me visualize that. Because that is literally how we sold in the idea of what mini-cons could be before it was Armada, before it was anything else. I do love my Vector Prime. Yep, the Optimus Primal repaint. That was the one I was thinking of in Universe. Was pretty decent. Kind of purple and green or something. Now, if Hasbro really committed to the planet concept being something they thought was worth it, yeah, you could downscale them, and I could imagine you could make a Unicron, you could make a Primus, you could make a Junkion, easy enough, and you'll have to make them Transformers. I mean, at that point, the gig is up. They gotta all transform, but you could do Velocitron, and you could turn the Beast Planet into a Beast kind of thing. I mean, you could go for it. At that point, go for it. If you're willing to scale it down and really live with the planets. But I will tell you, the planets that came out for Star Wars didn't do well. The planets that came out for Lego Star Wars did not do well. The Beast, the Trendmasters planets, they had a Beast planet, and I think that was called Planet Wars, maybe. That didn't really do well. So there's something about just getting a big ball, which was the risk for Unicron and Primus in the first place. That's scary. So the bigger they are, the scarier it is. It's like, I can see a concept where they downsize it, but they got to do more than, they got to do 4, at least 4. And one better not be a BS Earth Transformer. I hope the future Transformers 1 movie will explore in depth the lore. I hope they do. I mean, they got a great opportunity. I was part of a couple presentations to animation people that were going to tackle this, and things from the Exodus novel and the video game and everything else. But we'll see what becomes of it. This thing keeps jumping. Sorry. The first Universe toy line was great to find a lot of cool Beast Machines toys that people skipped that era. Yeah, and that's what we did. We said, okay, these Beast Machine toys have some interesting looks. What can we do? What can we do? And we redecoed the heck out of that deluxe sized jet, whatever it was, Jaxus and Jetfire, Skyfire, and everything. I mean, we just kept redecoing that thing. I'm not a big fan of Quintus Prime design. He gives me Beast Machine Silverbolt vibes. Maybe. Best thing about that movie is the designs. Which movie? Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was big influenced by that guy at one point. Walton Books in years, yeah, right. I know. I spent years in there looking at my Dungeon and Dragons modules and all kinds of other crazy stuff. Used to have some kind of membership to a fantasy novel club because I was reading Dragonlance novels like they were going out of style. Then the Timothy Zahn Star Wars books. Oh man, I'm Dark Crystal all the way. I could do a dissertation on the design concepts of the Dark Crystal, color theory, shape theory, emotional theory. I can go on and on. Universe is the G2 of Beast Wars. Wow, that's kind of crazy. Was that book expensive? So, you guys really want to get into the book collection, we can do that. But the paperback that I have was, I don't know, it was about $100 at the time. So yeah, I guess that was expensive. But I was a single man, and that was that. But because you covet something for so long, you can't just have one. And then I had to go find the hardback, the original English edition, as well as the English American edition. So, you know, I'm a bit wackadoo, but I have friends, so my book here is signed, which is really cool. So that's how I conquered that childhood demon. I bought multiple copies of rare editions of that book once I could. So I don't know what that psychologically says about me, but and then the second hardbacks were a little more expensive, but they're not crazy. But then they reissued the whole dang thing, so now I don't even have to open them anymore because they reissued it. No. So yeah, I have like 5 copies. Let's see here, and it's a good copy. It's fine. Oh, this is from 2003, so it still might be older than some of you, but you don't have to buy an original. This one came with like a poster and stuff. So back in the 80s, there was not a, just a very quick, for those of you who weren't there in the 80s, they didn't overprint things. Even though there were a lot of people and a lot of people reading, they didn't overprint things like art books and movie books and game manuals and things like that. So that's what makes a lot of that stuff still valuable. Even some Dungeon Dragons things, while, you know, perceived to be mass produced, you know, that stuff got used up and changed often, re-edits and things. Is there a book, Japanese or English, that you recommend that covers the AEC toy line, Age of Extinction? What AEC? Japanese movie covered Beast Wars and car robots. Yeah. The Unicron trilogy. There isn't really. There's because what's weird is there's the Armada yearbook and then the Cybertron. Just had it today. Phase Ignition. I don't know why it's called that. And it's a smaller book, you know, but it still has all the animation stuff. But they didn't do one. There's nothing. There's nothing for Energon. There's almost no. There's a little bit of licensing, but I don't know. Not too much. Speaking minicons, how many were loosely based on GoBot characters, generally speaking? I don't know if any of them were directly. I mean, I was playing with names for sure, and there were 3 or 4 names that we threw around. But I don't know about designs. I don't think we looked at the designs because Bandai was still doing Machine Robo Rescue, which was still some of those designs, you know. So I didn't really mess with those. Car robots. I need that book. Yeah, that'd be cool. I don't know why there isn't one for that one either. I was under the impression as a kid and younger in college era that they just made perfect guides for every anime. I have it for Cyber Formula. I have it for G-Force and Yamato. I have a bunch of them, but I don't think they make them like they used to. I'd be into an all planet series, huh, Timo? All right. Holy Grail BotCon sets. You know, the thing about BotCon sets, they aren't hard. They aren't easy to find. Okay, so they make. I'll be conservative. You know, there's 3,000 or less most of the time. A certain percentage of those are going to your highest form of collector. So let's call that 1,500 easy. 1,000 are easy and hardcore collector hands that you're never going to get them out of. And then the other ones are just guys that eventually are going to need the money, right? Or the space. And you just got to wait for one of those guys to give up the ghost. And that's how you wait around for a BotCon anything, really. Sad to say. That's what it seems like to me. War Planets, very Mighty Maxus. Yep, that was right. That was perceived as competition for a minute. Once again, Matt is my archivist. He knows the nose, so I rely on him to kind of backstop me when I start talking crazy or can't remember what the hell I'm trying to say. Yeah, the Black Arachnia was pretty cool in that. Yeah, Star Wars Transformers, we can talk about that down the road. Hey, Matthew with the $5 super chat. I appreciate you. You found a copy of Ken Lashley's Robo Sweat piece. Oh, wow. Saved it off the Draxel Jump site. Wow. Yeah, I might have a bigger one. I'll have to see. And then I have a large form printout of it, which is weird. I don't know. It's black and white though, so it's not good. Transfam 1988. I forgot. Is the term Unicron Trilogy official or is it a fan name? Well, I named it that back in the, I believe, the 2005 days. But I started calling it that to lay claim to those 3 stories as a cohesive whole, as a way to explain what we were doing there. Thank you, Matt, for the super chat. Yeah, cheap books do become expensive eventually. Did the job get easier when wikis started being developed on the internet? Well, for a brand like Transformers, no, because let's just be very open. Tell me about Optimus Prime. Click, click, click. There's too many different branches off the tree to know where to start. Okay, I'm a new writer. I got to write. Oh, they want me to write a Wheelie story. Okay, Wheelie. Okay, what? Tell me about Wheelie. And you're gonna get a few different things, and you're not gonna know which one's which one, and it just becomes a. So the internet's helpful. The wiki is helpful, but it still doesn't codify anything. It kind of, or it doesn't have to be the roadmap for the future exclusively, I guess. Certainly helps for research and knowledge, absolutely. Nice Forgotten Realms fan. What do I got for you? I don't keep any of my other books in bags, but my D&D books. My D&D books are all in bags. Dragonlance. I used to love the Dragonlance. I still have to do a book. I got a lot of books here we could talk about all night. All right, where are we at? We went a whole hour. We're doing awesome. All right. All right. Are we ready to? For those of us who stayed to the end or close to the end. There we go. Someone's calling the ball. It's like he's a paid extra, ladies and gentlemen. Get my keyboard out of the way so he doesn't step on my stuff. All right, so we're going to open this one. Yeah, I got multiple copies of a lot of books. Ooh, were you outside? Where'd that go? Owning 5 copies of the same book is an addiction. Then again, I own 3 G1 Optimus Prime, so I can't believe. Yeah. No, that is certainly me trying to conquer my childhood disappointment and not having that book and it being in my mind's eye for a long time. So yeah. All right. So again, these open from the bottom. Ah, right. Got a right old Scavenger. Nice. I love Scavenger. He's my Godzilla. And the only Transformer that can moonwalk. So, I know he's not everybody's cup of tea, but the Minicon sits in his seat. Awesome. He's got those great hands. Those tread arms. That is amazeballs engineering. So, not too shabby. I will take it. That's a good one. What is a dream franchise you would have loved to work on but haven't? Well, you know what? I always say He-Man or WWE. I don't know if I'm clever enough for WWE anymore. And He-Man fans scare me. They're like G.I. Joe fans. They're not as... They like what they had and they want it to continue. And that's fine. I'm a little bit more... Let's tinker with this. Let's change this and let's do that. And, you know, there you go. Wow. Whoa. All right, we still got a lot of questions here. Yeah, I don't know what Hasbro's, going backwards to old art books is kind of tougher and tougher. I wish they'd just digitize that stuff and put it out there. But those kind of books are not, they're pretty time consuming to put together and pull everything together. You need people to send assets back and forth. That's why people like Jim put them together now and not necessarily Hasbro Direct. And let someone like Jim do the hard work of tracking stuff down or getting people to give him stuff or whatnot is the only way you're going to get some of those art books now. Yeah, I don't know why they don't promote the art of the package more in general. They do a little bit where they can, but it's really just, they treat it very commercial. It's there for the need of promoting the characters, and then once it's gone, it's just gone. Versus looking at it is like a long, ongoing archive of illustrations that someone might want to flip through. At this point, there'd be thousands, right? Oh, the Energon publisher. You know what? I think I remember that, Matt. That's interesting. Interesting you say that. Yeah, Jiro popped in. I think I'm caught up, kind of. Wind Charger, you're funny. But yeah, I have a lot of stormtroopers, of all different stripes, though. Actually, if we're talking weird balls of hair, I suppose, I keep all the pen caps of all the pens that I've killed the ink on, whether it's anything, marker, paint cap, Posca, just the Pilot Precise pens that I use, I have a giant box of, and now, yeah, so that I keep all those. So anyway, so this guy, he'll be up in the prime spot here for a minute. I'm still drawn on the archermonster.com shop, so did Warpath and did some fun minicon illustrations this week with the teams. I got a Megatron and a few things coming up I got to do. So if you want to check out the original art, it is up there. It is always on ArcherMonster_creative on Instagram. I did sell the big Cybertron painting that was up last week, so I appreciate that. That was awesome. They're longer form paintings, so I'm working on Unicron now. Not even half done there. But Megatron is finally done. And then my Dayglow guy is done there. So, and if you want to check out, the sketchbooks are still up, or the robots. So check that out. And we had a good crew here today, so I thank everybody for coming. I didn't see Ninjatron, I don't think, did I? No doubt lurking in the background, agitating Jiro. That's probably what's going on. Invisible darts and all. So yeah. Again, I'm an independent artist, so if you want to check out the website and see if there's something for you, please do. And tonight we talked the whole time pretty much off and on about Primus and Unicron and around that whole thing, so that was great. But if you have a topic, try to hit me up on the Instagram. Is probably the easiest way. And tell me what we could talk about in one of these live forums. And I appreciate it. And I thank everybody for being here. All right, we'll see you next time.